Rocco asked me if I wanted a song to come up to, and I was like, "Dad, just pick one, dude." This thing I look like Vanilla Ice. I don't know if that's good or bad, but. For you guys who don't know me, my name's Ken Baden. I've been in the remodeling industry for like, I think 18 solid years now. I'm a consultant, coach, and I've been a partner, and I've been a sole owner. I've built 3 remodeling companies in the last 8 years. You know, nothing spectacular, but I believe all 3 of them are in that like 5 to 7, range. But what I wanted to focus on was like what I could give to you all. What is the most value that I can provide you guys in the room? I'm gonna do my best to give you guys the things that I truly believe are of the most value. But the first thing I wanna talk about is partnerships. Do we have anybody in here that owns their business in a partnership or wants to do a partnership? Just one? Couple? The first business that I started was with my best friend 9 or 10 years ago. Probably already know where I'm going with this, but didn't work out so well. So the first thing I would suggest is, well, my wife's an attorney and she would suggest just don't get in a partnership. But if you do, I don't care if it's with your dad, your brother, your sister, your mother, your best friend, it doesn't matter. The number one thing I would suggest that we didn't do is have an operating agreement, have a contract, have clear set expectations. I think the biggest downfall for us was when you don't have those expectations set, because that's ultimately what an operating agreement says. It says, you and I are in a partnership together. I expect you to do X, Y, and Z, and you expect me to do X, Y, and Z. And in return for X, Y, and Z, we're gonna get A, B, and C compensation. The terms are clearly outlined, but what also needs to be clearly articulated is what happens if I wanna roll? What happens if you wanna roll? What happens if we get in a dispute? Who's the arbitrator? So like all of these things are outlined very clearly, and it's kind of like a prenup in a way, because a business partnership truly is a marriage. And if you dissolve one, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's gonna feel like you're going through a divorce. I mean, it sucked. It was weird going through a divorce with a dude, but it was, in all jokes aside, man, it was a really exhausting, miserable experience, and we still don't speak. That one cost me a whole lot, about $250,000. When we split, I could have gone through a long, drawn-out legal process, and I would have likely won. But the way I looked at it was, I have been doing this at the time for probably about 15 years, and I knew my skill set. I knew that I had the confidence, like, I don't necessarily need you. Truth be told, I felt like I was the thing that, if we split, I'm ready to count on me. I don't know that you can do the same. And so, went off, started my next company, and in 2 years, we surpassed those folks. But if I could, give you any piece of advice, it would be, if you're going to get in a partnership, absolutely get that stuff on paper. Get a partnership agreement, an operating agreement, a contract. Gratitude is something that Ibrahim Hussein, who's an Apex member, says the more grateful you are for what you currently have, the more God gives you to be grateful for. So in other words, if you're able to express gratitude for where you're at, the more likely you are to get to be grateful for. What I'd really like to focus on from this point forward is the entire last year. I don't want to talk about that because it sucked, but it is the best value that I can give to you all. So Brandon and I have very similar backgrounds, and what I didn't want to do is come up here and be like, I'm a felon and a former drug addict, and then you guys are going to start looking around like, are we in the right room? Because second guy we hear that with, and then you're going to hear another big muscly guy come up and share a very similar thing, and it's not a prerequisite to being in remodeling. It might be common, but I think that thing, whatever that catalyst is that either keeps you down and maybe takes you out permanently, if you're able to come back from that, I truly believe that's just the launch pad for a lot of people that I know. Some of the most successful people I know, they have that thing, that pass. And it doesn't have to be like drug, it can be anything. I truly believe that the depths of your struggle can ultimately be that motivating factor to reach the heights of your success. So for me, as low as I went, that's as high as I want to be. So I got a lot more to climb. I went pretty low. Post that, I became a member of a 12-step community, and I still am. I got a couple knuckleheads with me today that, along with me, all 3 of us shouldn't even be here today. But yet, we're all here, we're all thriving. A couple of them work with me, and I've seen these guys become excellent young men. The gratitude that I've gotten from that humbling experience, I've been able to utilize in business and my marriage. And in those 12-step communities, the parallels between the 12-step and the business world are eerily similar, and a big theme is gratitude. So Bradley talks about it. He's like, gratitude is just so important to your success. You should have, the thing that motivates you, your why, whether it's a picture of a car or your guy or gal or whatever it is. As soon as you wake up, that should be on your nightstand. And I couldn't agree more. For me, what I have to kind of catch myself in now is it's really easy to have that level of gratitude when you're coming from like the gutter. You know, I've launched 3 companies, making more money than you ever thought was possible. And you're living in the house you never thought you'd live in. You know, you're waking up next to an attorney and not one that's representing you. You know what I mean? Like, you're, you know, like my wife, my dogs, dude, my German Shepherds, and like, dude, what is this life? But real quick, I can catch myself getting real ungrateful. I mean, Nick, Justin, the guys that are here with me, I can let that, you know, it actually gets me a little emotional thinking about because it's little stupid shit in comparison. But dude, on the day-to-day, it doesn't feel little. It doesn't feel little when you're making decisions and those decisions impact every person on your team. And I've got 2 states now. We've got 20, 30 people that if I was to make a decision to say go left and that's not the right decision, then those guys are all impacted by that. Sometimes I can catch myself getting a little ungrateful, and so what I have to do in those instances is just kind of check myself. Hang on to gratitude as if it's such a powerful tool in business, and every time I get so disgruntled that I can recognize a problem and how I feel, and I feel that lack of gratitude, when I go to bed, I think about I could be sleeping outside right now because I used to. And I think about where I came from, but let me give you an example on why I really put this on here. Last year, as I told you, was very difficult. It was our growth year. We started our new office and we did a multitude of different things that we should have already known, but I'm competitive. So I'm gonna put myself in a spot where it's like, okay, we're gonna do all of these things, but we're still gonna see a return on investment in 3 months, which was never gonna happen, but that's just what we do, right? And so at the end of the year, my CPA came out and our CFO, and we're doing numbers. You know, we still had an okay year, but it felt like we got our ass kicked all year long. And I thought that that new office was gonna be up and running in 90 days and we'd see a return on investment in 90 days. The staffing, all the things that it took, I just underestimated all of it. And that's kind of business, right? Like we think it's gonna do one thing and then it takes 6 months longer than we thought it was gonna be, and that's just part of it, right? At the end of the year, my CPA says to me as we're doing numbers, he said, Ken, if we had the profit, you know, and then everything that we were doing just last year, so we'd be having and he referenced the scene in Wolf of Wall Street that I don't know if it's, you know, appropriate to talk about here, but he was saying we'd have a certain kind of party, and it really just made me think, last year, I was bitching about where we were. Last year, I was complaining about what we didn't hit. I had no gratitude for where we were at the time. And so that was just a huge lesson. It just hit me like, I will never make that mistake again. Never. I hope not. And if I do, you guys can yell at me and tell me to have gratitude. But it's just the year before, I truly didn't see it, man. All I saw was that we had set a bar here and we didn't hit here. I didn't appreciate that we had these extraordinary profit numbers and what we had done in such a short amount of time. You know, my newest business, we're only in our 4th year, right? Because you have to remember that I had that partnership. So while I should be in year 8, 9, 10 and well on my exit, because that is what we're pursuing, I'm not. And it's hard sometimes to maintain that gratitude because of what I lost, or, you know, I don't even like saying the word lost. But it was just such an powerful lesson for me, and I would really urge you guys to just recognize and appreciate the small wins that you have now, because it's just such a rob to like focus on like where you're not at. And if you're like me, that's what we do a lot. I don't know, try. I know it's hard as an entrepreneur. That leads me to my next point. Stop comparing out. Brandon is one of my best friends. Todd is a mentor and a friend of mine. Kurt Lennington is a mentor of mine, or somebody who's taught me a whole lot. What I really want to focus on really quick, and what I was just talking about, don't let comparing out to what others are in your market or even just in your network. First of all, you should want to be surrounding yourself with people that are further along than you. I mean, that's just something that I strategically do. But then when you strategically do that, dude, don't get caught up comparing yourself to like, well, we're not this $100 million company. Like, dude, you just started 2 years ago. Of course you're not going to be. Again, if you're competitive, it's real easy to compare out and focus on, again, what you are not doing and where you're not, versus recognizing the wins and the things that you are doing correctly, which is such a much better use of your time. Again, take it from me. I spent a year being miserable, and probably more than that, if I'm being honest with you. Bitching, secretly hoping to watch my old partner and nemesis fail. That was probably like that first year. Angry because I had given away 3.5 years of my life, it felt like. The truth is, I didn't lose anything. I gained a ton of experience. We surpassed them, like I said, within 2 years. We ended up being the fastest company in the DMV to reach platinum, which is Owens Corning's highest level warranty status, which they have very strict requirements for volume and very specific standards. They don't give it until someone's been in business with them for 3 years. We hadn't been in business at all for 3 years. We're diamond with TAMCO. We're one of only 2 companies that exist. TAMCO's newest, highest level warranty, for those of you that are in roofing. So we've done a lot of things in a very short period of time, but I was more focused on what they were doing or where I'm not with my peers. And again, that just robs you so much of where you're at.